We have Beth Roca over there. She's going to be manning the mic. She's also one of the Patton PTO co-presidents. Kristen Young is the UHS president of the PTO, and Christina and Kristen will be running time tonight. Well, we want to thank you all for coming. Interested community members and school board candidates, 12 out of 12 are here tonight, which is awesome, running for 6 seats. Thank you all for coming. Serving, oh, who's missing? Okay, well, he said he's coming, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he will be here. Serving as a school board director is one of the most important undertakings any citizen can do. And the school board does play a very important role in casting the future vision of our school district, setting policy, setting budget, setting taxes. So we want to thank you for embarking on this candidate journey, and we look forward to hearing from each of you tonight. As for the format, this is a non-partisan event sponsored by the UHS and Patton PTOs. The handout you received lists the candidates by seat in alphabetical order. Questions for the forum were solicited from the community. The PTO boards assembled the final list of questions, and we did our best to represent all of the questions. The candidates received the questions in advance exactly as they're written on your handout. Due to time constraints, we can't take any questions from the floor. Time limits are imposed on each question so we can give equal time to every candidate. A yellow card will be flashed at 15 seconds remaining and a red card when time is up. So we're going to change up the order of response as we go. The microphone is always going to go to the left. You guys can just go ahead and pass it down and the next person can start. You don't have to wait for anything. I'll read the question once. And we're recording this event, so it'll be made available on PTO communications for anyone who couldn't be here. If you didn't catch everything, you can see it later. And the candidates have all agreed to stay afterwards for about half an hour to meet with you guys, so they'll all come in and be with you. So I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started with Dr. Aki. Introduce yourself to us in 2 minutes. Please cover the following. What is your relationship to UCFSD and the school board? What is the role of a school board director, and why are you the person for this job? What are your priorities? How much time do you plan to commit to this role? And what official endorsements do you have, if any?
Good evening, everybody. I have the privilege to get us all started here. Thank you for taking time to come out and talk to all of us. And thank you to the PTOs of Patton and the high school for organizing this event. For all of you who don't know me, I'm Rashi Aki. I have the privilege of serving as a board director for Region A for the East and West Marlborough townships. I've been a resident of East Marlborough for 22 years. It, I think, is the best place to raise a family, and I hope you all agree. I'm a proud mother of 3 kids. All of them went through the Unionville Chatsworth School District, elementary school, middle school, and high school. My sons graduated in 2015 and 2018, and my daughter is still in the high school. She's a junior, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I think she's here. I'm a proud Army mom. My middle son is currently serving as a first lieutenant stationed in Washington State. And through our children, we have had the experience to really figure out what this district offers across the academics, student activities, and there's no doubt in my mind that my kids' success is rooted in UCFSD. I'm sure you all share that sentiment with me too. Professionally, I'm a chemical engineer, and both me and my husband got that degree, and we both hold PhDs from Georgia Tech. So you can say science is our family's foundation. I had 20 years at DuPont in various roles, and in about 2016 I started my own company, so I'm the CEO of my own company. And I see I hope I have, that's 15 seconds more, huh? Okay, well, all right, I'm going to try to rush. Basically, the main thing that I want to say is that I have had the luxury to be there and really serve because I want to give back to the community. That is the main thing, and that's the only reason I ran in 2019, and I'm running again. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to echo the thank yous to the PTO for the organization of this event. My name is Isabel Romine, and it's an honor to be here before you today. My ties to UCFSD run deep. As a mother and aunt of 6 children in this district from preschool to middle school, and with a husband who is a K-12 UCFSD alumni, our connection spans over 3 decades in this district. Ensuring excellence here isn't merely a goal of mine, it's personal. The role of a school director is multifaceted, setting vital policies, managing budgets, and overseeing hiring and curricular choices. I collaborate with teachers and administrators in my role as an educator and director with the Delaware Valley Science Fairs, working diligently to enhance our science programs. My PhD in chemical biology and my MBA have armed me with the academic expertise and business savvy to tackle our challenges in the school district from multiple angles. My priorities are clear: upholding our tradition of academic excellence, exercising fiscal prudence, aiming to curb the near 4 to 5% increases in taxes, and enhancing participation and board transparency. I'm fully committed to this duty. I will be present at every board meeting, curriculum instruction and technology, and work session. I will also put in the necessary time weekly to stay informed and proactive. Recent issues like the PA systems and the water system at Chadsford demonstrate the necessity of school board directors to make themselves available, to go in person, to visit the issues, and to see them for their own eyes. Regarding endorsements, while I'm honored to have the backing of the Republican Party and Young Republicans in our area, I've declined all other endorsements and accepted no additional financial support. My aim is a board free of outside influence, serving our children and community. I'm dedicated to UCFSD. I'll prioritize our children's education, remain financially watchful, and I will also advocate to include our community every step of the way. Thank you for considering me as a member for your school board.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the PTO for hosting this event and for our community for coming out and caring about the school board. My name is Victoria Barada, and I'm the current board president, and I'm seeking re-election in Region B, which includes Birmingham, Newlyn, and Patton townships. I am the person for the job because the role fits perfectly with my personal and professional and family experiences and priorities. My husband and I, Mike, are the proud parents of 5 children who all went through the district K-12. This is my first year as an empty nester. I've been a lifelong advocate of public education. I attended public schools, I earned my PhD in educational psychology, and I was a school psychologist for 9 years in elementary schools. I've also been a parent special education advocate and an adjunct professor at Widener. I have a long history of volunteering in this community. I was a Girl Scout cookie mom for a lot of years, PTO member, URA field hockey coach, and a volleyball booster president. Since being elected, I have been a very active board member. I don't just attend the required meetings. School board president is my primary professional commitment. I visit schools regularly and attend student events. I participate in professional development alongside the teachers. I've presented at state and national conferences with UHS students and staff, and I'm a member of almost every committee or council that the district has run since joining the board, as is Ms. Talbert. I'm very proud to be the recommended candidate of the UCFSD Teachers Association, and I've also been endorsed by the Chester County Democratic Committee. Thank you.
Thanks again, PTO, and everyone for coming out tonight. I'm Bob Sage. I've lived in Pocopson Township for 14 years. I've got 4 kids, 1 in college, 1 right there, 1 who's also a sophomore at UHS, and my 4-year-old daughter will start at Pocopson next year. I have 7 years experience on our school board. I first joined in 2014 and finished at the end of 2019, just before the pandemic, and I rejoined 15 months ago to fill a vacant seat. I spent the last 25 years of my career in executive management, holding senior roles in finance, technology, and corporate real estate and security. With respect to endorsements, I have not sought nor received any endorsements in this election other than from the Chester County Republicans. I'm running for school board because I believe every student deserves a world-class education. And while our schools are good, we need strong leadership to make them better. And I have a strong track record of improving our district while on the school board. For example, in 2014, I took over the policy committee and identified a problem, which was that 90% of the school board's policies hadn't been reviewed in over 10 years and were potentially out of step with current law. So I worked with the superintendent on a plan and reviewed and updated 200 policies in 18 months. In 2016, I championed the district's refinancing of its debt at a low point in the interest rate cycle, saving taxpayers over $5 million in interest payments. In 2017, I promoted a long-range outdoor master plan for our campus, which led to upgrades like the double turf field. And in 2018, I started the first ever technology committee and worked with Mr. Webb to modernize our network infrastructure, invest in cybersecurity, and keep our educational tech current. If you want better schools, world-class schools, you should elect a leader with the experience, expertise, and a plan to get the job done. And you can check out my plan on my website, so feel free to do that after the meeting tonight. Thanks for coming, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you to the PTOs. I can tell a lot of work went into this. It's very much appreciated, and thank you community members for coming out to support us. My name is Mary Kate Loomis, and I am running for the 2-year seat in Region B, which includes Birmingham, Newland, and Pocopson Townships. I'm currently endorsed by the Democratic Party, as well as supported by the Unionville Chadds Ford School District Education Association. I am a 1997 graduate of the district, parent of 2 Pocopson Elementary students, ages 7 and 9, substitute teacher at Chadds Ford, Hillendale, and Pocopson Elementary Schools, and currently serving in my 3rd year on the Pocopson Elementary School Parent-Teacher Organization, my 2nd as co-president. I am running for school board because I genuinely care about the students, families, and our community, and I want to make a difference. I'm committed to volunteering for my I'm committed to volunteering for my community through PTO, various committees, such as the recent Centennial Parade Committee, hopefully you are all able to check it out, and Girl Scouts. I too was a cookie mom for 4 years. I have since retired. But I do stay on as the treasurer. My priorities are to keep Unionville Chadds Ford a top school district in the state as well as the country. I would serve as the voice of the elementary community that is currently not represented on the board. I would welcome the opportunity to help shape the full-day kindergarten program, as well as work to evaluate current staffing standards as they directly relate to class sizes. With my flexible schedule as a substitute teacher, I'm able to commit above and beyond the time required for this role. I am excited and honored for the opportunity to build upon the foundation set by the current board. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lori Peters. I have a master's degree in physics and spent a decade in the semiconductor industry before getting my MD. I have 2 children in the district, one at Patton, one at UHS, and they both attended Pocopson. I've been a homeroom mom and an active member of the Patton PTO. I'm currently the Patton PTO liaison to the school board, wellness and curriculum councils, and I've volunteered at many district events, including the Centennial Parade. I'm running for school board to be an advocate for parents and community voices that are currently underrepresented. This board needs a better balance to reflect the diversity of opinions in this district. A lack of balance led to poor decision-making in the past and will do so again in the future if not rectified. The failure to recognize the foreseeable harms of their pandemic policies led to significant learning loss. The National Recovery Scorecard shows UCFSD students lost 3/4 of a year in math, and our district has experienced a rise in mental health and behavioral problems that have prompted increased spending on new counselors and IEP support to mitigate the damage. In 2021, I demonstrated my commitment to the children of this district by stepping forward and leading a push for a return to normalcy. My top priorities are academic excellence, transparency, and responsible stewardship of our taxpayer dollars. We must address the learning loss through high-quality, evidence-based curriculum and a focus on academics. Transparent communication with parents is vital. Research shows parental engagement is the most powerful predictor of academic success and classroom behavior. Finally, our board recently announced a $2.2 million budget deficit for last year and approved a 4% property tax increase. We must spend responsibly and focus on our core mission of education.
Hi, my name is Jody Allen, and I'd like to thank the PTO for hosting us and for all of you for being here during the seventh inning of the Phillips game. This is my first time running for school board. I grew up in Chatsford. I'm a product of Unionville Chatsford schools. In fact, I was in this building long enough ago that it was still called Unionville Middle School because Mr. Patton was the principal. My daughter is a first grader now at Chatsford Elementary School. The school board director role is its role of responsibility primarily for policy, budgetary decisions, and for overseeing the superintendent. Yeah, the role of the school board director is not to micromanage the day-to-day operations of the school, of the teachers. Unlike Dr. Barada and all of our teachers, I'm not a professional educator. I want to make sure that we allow our teachers to teach. That's what we paid them for. That's what we should let them do. I think I'm the right candidate for the school board because my entire career has been service-oriented. I spent 20 years in customer service managing bookstores for Barnes & Noble. In fact, in 1998, I opened the original store in the Concord Mall and was the assistant manager there for a few years before moving to New York City, where I then spent another 13 years managing stores in Brooklyn, Manhattan. I had the honor of opening the new flagship store for the company in 2009, and I managed that store until my wife and I moved overseas. My daughter was born in Morocco, and that's when we decided to move back to the States. I always plan on raising my family back here in Chatsford for the same reasons that many of you have. It's a beautiful place to live, and we have a top-notch school system. Everything I do, I see through the lens of customer service. So my approach for school board is looking at all of our students, our teachers, our families, our community members as my customers, and it's my responsibility to do the best job that I can for them. I'm proud to be recommended by the Unionville Chatsford School District Education Association, by the Chester County Democratic Party, and I'm also proud to be a Moms Demand Action Gun Sense candidate because of my support for common sense gun safety policies, which would help keep our students, faculty, and support staff safe. Thank you.
Good evening, thanks to the PTO for having us and for all you coming out. My name is Brian Lamb, I'm running for Region C. I'm a father of 3 UCF students, 2 at Patton, 1 at Hillendale. I'm a Penn State alum, a chemical engineer, and in my free time, I'm a Little League coach and an avid guitar player. So why do I believe I'm the right person for this job? I believe that for any governing body to be successful, it's important to have a diversity of thought and a unity of purpose. And I'd like to take those 2 thoughts one at a time. Diversity of thought. The Lamb family is a bit old school. We believe that not every kid should get a trophy. We believe that tough love is in fact love. And we believe in the importance of academic merit, things like reinstating the honor roll, for example. Since moving into this area in 2019, I've noticed that we have a progressive school board. For example, voting to change the school mascot in the middle of a pandemic. We can debate the pros and cons of progressivism, if you like, but it's really not my point. My point is that there's a blind spot on the school board. And to do what's best for our community, I think that a broader diversity of thought is essential. On the school board, I would seek to balance our progressive school board with a traditionalist's perspective. For example, we've replaced snow days with online learning. I don't accept that online school counts as real school. And I think that on real snow days, kids ought to be building snowmen, not sitting in front of screens being taught by videos. Now, maybe you may agree or disagree with me on this point, but regardless of that, I think that our staff, students, and administrators will all benefit from a school board that has a broader diversity of thought. The second point is on unity of purpose, and I know I'm close to my time, so I'm going to save most of that for the subsequent questions. But let's suffice it to say for now that a school board, we need to be clear on the school board's objectives. If elected,
I would refocus the school board on academic excellence and fiscal responsibility. I would seek to minimize the distraction of pet political projects and instead unite our community around students, staff, and teachers. Thank you.
Let me start by expressing my appreciation to the PTO and for the citizens who have come tonight to hear us speak. My name is Brian Schartz. I'm a resident of Chadds Ford. I'm also the proud parent of a daughter who attended Chadds Ford Elementary School and is now a 7th grader here at Patton Middle School. I've lived in this area for about 18 years, but I'm a relative newcomer to this community. But I think it's important to my story, which is that I moved here into the Chadds Ford community precisely to have access to these great schools. The research that we did said this was the place we wanted to have our daughters going to school. And I have to say that the promise is one thing, the actual delivery is another, and we could not be more pleased with the decision we made to relocate into this school district. I started paying attention to the school board activities during COVID. Maybe I was just entertainment deprived, but after we started live meetings again, I started going to the live meetings, and I think it's safe to say that other than the incumbents here on the stage, nobody has spent more time in school board meetings than I have. Now, the lesson here might be that if you spend too much time at school board meetings, they'll end up recruiting you to sit up here on the stage, so you might be careful what you wish for there. But I've learned a lot about the processes and the rhythm of school boards as a result of that experience, and I think that qualifies me on day one to step into the role and make a positive impact for our schools. I will come to this opportunity not as an incumbent, but I have to say that I will bring the fresh ideas, but I don't think that this is a school district that has veered off course. I think we do an exceptional job here. And I think it's my responsibility to help keep this well-run machine on the tracks, continuing to look for opportunities to improve and make our schools as good as they possibly can be. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Erin Talbert, and I am an incumbent board member and a candidate in Pennsbury and Chadds Ford Townships. My professional background is in business consulting and pharmaceuticals, where I focused on change management, communications, and marketing. I left that all to spend more time with my children and support my husband's career. Now I own an outdoor design business. I think I possess some of the most important traits to be successful in this job. You have to have a patient disposition, the willingness to engage and learn, discerning judgment, and very thick skin. I think it helps if you're likable and approachable, but it can't be too important to you. As a board member, you must consider the residents, the parents, the faculty and staff, and most importantly, the students. But they all matter. The very nature of the job, though, requires that you disappoint groups of people. If one group is too happy, you very well might not be doing your job properly. As board communications chair, I'm extremely proud of the frequency and transparency and professionalism of our many communications. I'm on the negotiating team, and I work extremely hard to have fair and fiscally responsible contracts with the Teachers Association, as well as our support staff and administrators. I think I've been reasonably successful these last 4 years in my role. The faculty in the district have endorsed my candidacy, and my fellow board members have elected me as vice president of the board. Switching into my priorities, I'll share 4. 1, by far the most important, is to maintain and improve our academics by hiring and retaining the very best teachers. UCFSD should be a great place to live, to go to school, and to work. 2, we must find ways to deliver a high level of academic rigor balanced with the increasing mental health challenges of our students. We have to help them be ready and resilient for what lies ahead. 3, we have to ensure a safe learning environment through building and campus safety evaluations. And 4, continue fiscal discipline that allows us to invest in our people, programs, and buildings. Personally speaking, I've been married to my college sweetheart from Penn State for 22 years, a Unionville grad. And we have 2 not so tiny anymore humans who call me mom. My daughter is a sophomore in college, and my son is a high school junior here at UHS.
Good evening, my name is Madeline Werner, and I've been a resident of Chadds Ford for 5 years.
I'm not new to the area. I lived in Thornton and Glen Mills for 20 years, and my children went through Garnet Valley schools. My background is I have a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science, and I did my graduate work at the University of Pennsylvania, both in education and immunology. I was an assistant professor of biology at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science. I also have 20 years of experience in pharmaceutical research and development, sales and marketing, and also represented Pfizer as a medical liaison. I am now the co-owner of a consulting firm. I made the decision to run for school board director because many neighbors had voiced their concerns about falling district rankings, learning losses for their children, and the continued yearly increases in school taxes that made it increasingly difficult for residents on fixed incomes. A huge percent of Chadsworth Township neighbors fall into this category. I really felt the need to serve my community using the skills and experience I've gained in my varied careers. I've always had a passion for learning and teaching in some form. I even taught my neighborhood kids piano lessons for years. I believe the job of a school board director is to address the issues that concern our parents and residents. Most who I've spoken to feel their concerns have been ignored by the current school board, so I felt led to try to remedy this. I can say that with hundreds of residents and parents I've interacted with in Chadsworth and Pennsbury through door knocking and meet and greets, they have endorsed me for school board director due to my common sense approach to academics and fiscal management. Having run my own business, having worked in academia, having varied responsibilities in the pharmaceutical industry, I have the experience, knowledge, and the time to devote to the success of achieving the goals our parents and residents are asking for from their elected school board directors.
Next question, we'll start with Victoria Barada. You'll have 1 minute. Please speak about your priorities regarding student achievement and curriculum. Some specific concerns from the community include getting students back on track academically in the wake of pandemic learning losses. What does free and appropriate public education mean to you, and your support for the Portrait of a Graduate District initiative?
Setting priorities and having a clear mission is vital to any high-performing organization. And I'm proud of my involvement with helping to create the Portrait of a Graduate, an educator, and fleshing out our mission, vision, and value statements, setting a strong direction for UCFSD's future. The district's priorities are my priorities. It will be years before we understand the full impact of the pandemic, but there is a false narrative out there that our district's performance has gone into the toilet. Our test scores, attendance and graduation rates, student activity participation levels clearly tell the story of an excellent district. But that doesn't mean that people aren't struggling, or that it isn't challenging to teach, or that we couldn't do better. I remain committed to strengthening our curriculum, our supports and services to meet the needs of our students and our families.
Academic growth is my #1 priority for our schools, and I think this should be at the core of everything we do. With respect to learning losses from the pandemic, I think those are real, and it breaks my heart when I talk to parents for whom remote school didn't work. In fact, even in my own household, it didn't work for all of my kids. Our district's own data shows that many students did fall behind in math, especially our current 7th to 10th graders. And when we had our achievement report a year ago, only 2 board members spoke up about this problem and asked the administration to do more, and I was one of them. We need to get extra support to students who need it. Improving academic growth also means using instructional methods that generate the best learning outcomes, like small group learning, ability level grouping, and direct instruction. We also need to stay with our rigorous college prep curriculum. Academic excellence also needs to be embedded in our school culture. Symbols of accomplishment like honor roll and class rank have been dropped in recent years, and I think we should bring those back. We've also been too slow in our response to ChatGPT, which is changing how students work and learn and undermining academic integrity.
It is our educational excellence excellence that makes Unionville Chatsford School District just so sought after. We must constantly strive to meet the ever-changing needs of our students. In my work as a substitute teacher, I have seen impacts from COVID and will likely see more in the future. I feel very strongly that our staffing standards in relation to class sizes, particularly at the elementary level, need to be reviewed and adjusted accordingly. Our teachers need to be able to assess students individually and identify learning and behavioral challenges so that students can get the resources they need. Students in grades 3 to 5 can be in classes with 26 or more students, and grades K to 2 can be with 23 or more students. The larger the class, the harder it is and the more likely that issues will not be identified timely. Elementary serves as the foundation of a student's academic career. We need, and our children deserve, to be set up for success as they move through the district. Thank you.
Education is our core mission, and losing sight of that cost our children a lot of ground in the pandemic. UCFSD students lost 3/4 of a year in math versus a national average of a half year. Our 2022 PSSA scores show only 55% of middle schoolers proficient in math versus 70% pre-pandemic. Almost 1 in 6 received the lowest rating of below basic versus 1 in 12 pre-pandemic. Those kids are now high schoolers struggling through high school math who may not choose STEM careers because of this. Pandemic high schoolers are recording the lowest ACT scores in 32 years. Developmental windows were missed in our youngest. You cannot elect the arsonist to put out the fire they started. Policy matters. We need fewer social emotional learning activities and more instructional time. We need to encourage academic effort by restoring honor roll, and we need to refocus and rededicate ourselves to our core mission of education.
My priorities are to continue the UCF tradition of excellence and find ways to improve while helping to provide a safe, supportive learning and working environment for both our students, faculty, and our support staff. As Dr. Brada said, we can see that through some of the recent results, it looks like we are getting back on track. UHS was just ranked 307th nationally, according to the U.S. News and World Report, which is the highest ranking it's ever received. That's not to say that there's not a lot of work to do. There's always room for continuous improvement, and that's what I would strive for. I fully support our portrait of a graduate. I think the idea of empowering each student to succeed in life, and contribute to society is one of those great ideas that I wish I had, and I wish I'd been part of that. So the most important part of that is that we want to make sure we're preparing our students to be civic-minded, critically thinking people, regardless of what those next steps are, whether that's college, whether that's trade school, whether it's the military. And this portrait of educator portrait of a graduate also applies to a free and appropriate public education. Thank you.
There has been significant learning loss in our schools. You heard the statistics that Lori summarized nicely. A major contributing factor is our current school board's focus on social issues at the expense of academic performance. What do I mean by this? During a time of significant learning loss, our school board voted to change the school mascot, voted to implement electric school buses, and our administration even drafted a formal condemnation of the January 6th Capitol riots. These are not academic objectives, they are political objectives. Now you may support these politics, or perhaps you don't, but the point is that a school is not the vehicle for advancing one's own political objectives. A school is an academic institution. We must appoint school board members with the will to put academics ahead of politics if we hope to right the ship.
When it comes to educating our kids and the curriculum priorities that I have a near-term priority and a longer-term vision. The near-term issue is clearly the remediation of anything that we need to do to rectify deficiencies from COVID, and I think the nuance is there, been touched on. I think we talked about the difficulties in the math for the older grades, but anecdotally I'm hearing that reading is a real challenge for some of the younger children. And I think that this school district has already shown a commitment to remediate, and I hope that we will continue to do so. The longer-term vision I have is technology. I'm going to date myself. The biggest technology issue when I was in school was whether you could use the pocket calculator in your class. Times have changed a little bit. But I think we as a school district owe it to our kids to lean into emerging technology, lean into generative AI, find a way to harness it for the benefit of our kids, because that is the future. And so even though I may be way behind on the technology curve, my daughter is not going to be. Thank you.
The number one value for the district is educational excellence. Delivering a top-tier educational program is the cornerstone of all that we do. To me, this means three things. One, we need the best people delivering. Two, relevant and vetted content to foster. Three, academic growth and achievement in all of our students. To drill down further, we need excellent educators who want to come here to Unionville. Once they're here, they need a good working environment, and we need to compensate them fairly. We need to be constantly evaluating and improving our curriculum to prepare the kids for college, trade school, the service, or the working world. And having a thoughtful, inclusive, transparent process for this is extremely important, which leads to number three, growth and achievement for all our students. The key word here being all. We need to continue to work hard to reach kids where they are and to find their own individual success. And this includes our special education students. As I said in my opening statement, I have been an educator my entire life in some capacity, and I have a passion for students to love learning and be lifelong learners. And that includes all students, regardless of their abilities. But the goal of the educational process is to provide students the knowledge and the tools to become productive members of society. And the only way to achieve this goal is to provide teachers with the tools they need to challenge students through implementation of curricula focused on this goal. I think it's critical at this point to implement curricula that will return to the rigor that was seen in pre-pandemic academics. As a member of the board, I would like to work with the curriculum director in choosing curricula that is challenging for our students to help them get back to the level of academic achievement they should be for their grade level. My experience in curriculum development and STEM education at the college level makes me uniquely qualified in determining what level of studies will prepare our students best for college or for trade schools.
I know there's a whole aim here to talk about pandemic. Our Unionville school missed 3 days of pandemic school, during pandemic. It may not have been perfect, but it was done within 3 days. We added summer school to help with the learning loss. We used COVID funds for that. There was a sense of urgency. We incorporated hybrid learning tools that were not developed prior to that, and were incorporated during that time. It helped not only to bridge the gap for the COVID, but also created enhanced curriculum. We recently got rankings from the US News that says that our school was 307th in the nation. This is the best ranking we have ever achieved so far to date. These rankings demonstrate that our superintendent's foresight and our teachers' efforts are encouraging our students to focus on APs and college readiness, and preparing and creating a launching pad for our students. We're very proud of what we do at Unionville.
At the heart of our schools is a commitment to graduate students who not only excel academically, but are also equipped with the soft skills needed to succeed in the world. FAPE ensures this applies to all our students, especially those who need additional support. I applaud our district's recent rankings of 307, as we've heard echoed around the table. However, I am concerned for our middle schoolers, 45% of whom, as of 2022 PSSAs, were not proficient in math. I don't want to see these kids get left behind. My priorities include empowering teachers with updated training, offering resources to parents for engagement with both their students and our schools, and analyzing detailed data, not just the averages. Lastly, while I'm open to innovative ideas like the portrait of a graduate, I do question its efficacy, especially if we paid consultant fees. As board members, we possess invaluable skills to benefit our district without incurring any extra costs, and we should prioritize using our time and talents before outsourcing.
The next question will start with Mary Kay Loomis. Consensus building and maintaining independence of thought are both important qualities of a school board director. Please provide a specific example of when you championed an unpopular position, how you did that, and what was the result. Is there a specific decision of the school board you would have approached differently?
After COVID, our school community was disconnected. The goal of our parent-teacher organization was to bring families back together, increase community involvement, and celebrate just how far we had come. The idea of changing Art and Garden, an event that had enjoyed a nearly 20-year history, was met with resistance. We needed to shift from fundraising through art and plant sales to a fun day for families to enjoy together and reconnect. In order to make these changes, we rebranded the event by collaborating with teachers, parents, and students to not only honor tradition, but to make thoughtful changes to stay true to our why, our students. We were able to bring not only Pocopson together, but the whole UCFSD community. The turnout exceeded all expectations and solidified that we had gone in the right direction. I know that being a board member will prevent situations where unpopular decisions need to be made, but I believe in keeping our students, families, and community as the focus will guide us in making the best choices. Thank you.
I became involved in school board issues in 2021 precisely to champion what was at that time an unpopular opinion to say out loud. That our children were overdue for a return to normalcy without the masking, quarantining, plexiglass, and social distancing that was harming their education and development. I did press interviews, wrote op-eds, spoke at school board meetings, posted on social media, wrote emails, and met personally with most of our school board and administration. Although my individual efforts were not as effective as I'd hoped, I truly believe it was the combined political pressure from parents like me all over the country that led to the end of COVID mandates. Although I disagreed vehemently with many of the board's decisions, I still have a civil relationship with all the members of the board and would be able to work productively with them.
I'm afraid I would need to disagree with Mr. Lamb and Ms. Peters for a second. I don't believe that a quality education is the sole objective of a school. I think it's one of two pillars of giving a great education, but also making sure that our students are safe. Monday morning quarterbacking is easy. I don't think anyone would argue that the pandemic response was the ideal situation, rather it was the lesser of two evils. It's really easy to throw bricks. It's more difficult to take those bricks and to build something with them. The school board is purposely a collaborative institution. No one school board director can sway the entire board. As a manager, I spent 20 years working in collaboration with my teams. I always prefer a collaborative work style because that's how you achieve buy-in from your teams. Even if you're the ultimate decision maker, if your team does not buy into what your goal and what your vision is, then they won't fully embrace it and then they won't execute it to the best of their ability.
Early in my career in a prior job with a different employer, I was asked to serve on my company's off-the-job safety task force. When I joined the team, the mission statement was to raise awareness about off-the-job safety, and folks would regularly put up posters around things like sunscreen use. I insisted that the goal ought to be to reduce injuries, and I refocused the team on achieving a measurable improvement to safety performance. We successfully launched an annual bicycle tune-up for employees as a result of that initiative. And I think I learned two things that are translatable to the school board. Number one, be clear on your objectives. Number two, measure performance. And number three, scrutinize wasteful non-core activities that distract from the objective. This is what I intend to bring to our school board. When our school board takes up an issue that is not core to our mission, such as funding electric school buses during a $2 million budget deficit, I will be the one to refocus our school board away from pet political projects and towards students, teachers, and academics.
I want to focus on one particular word in the question, which is approach. As a member of the audience for a lot of school board meetings, I've had the luxury of observing the process over time. I think too many members of our community think that there's far too much consensus in our school board because they see too many 9-0 votes when the final decision is made. But I can tell you that most of the policy decisions that are made by our school board don't start off with unanimity. They start off with a wide divergent set of views, and through conversation, collaboration, and compromise, we get to the 9-0 solution. Words that I think are dirty in politics, generally speaking, but should actually be embraced by our community. The key here is to have open-minded people who are willing to have an honest intellectual conversation on these matters and arrive at the spot where we can have agreement. I think our leaders in Harrisburg and Washington could take some lessons on how to run government if they would watch this school district.
What he said. Consensus building is super important in this job. It really is. No one person gets their way, despite what you might say or promise. The Talbert family would have loved a later start time when that came up. We had high schoolers, late sleepers, but listening to the needs of the broader community, it was clear that we weren't ready to move to a later start time. So what was best for the Talbert family or me had no relevance on the vote that I needed to take. An example of champion and unpopular position was the vote during COVID to allow winter sports. Both of my kids were doing winter sports, and the pressure was fierce to approve it from all involved families, like multiple calls, lots of texts. And I knew how important it was for the kids, but we were at the point, and I was laser focused on opening school and not doing anything that would cause backwards progress on those darn stupid COVID incidence numbers. I was honest with people why I was feeling, and it would have just been easy to go along, but I didn't. I followed my convictions, but the motion passed anyway. I was on the wrong side of that vote, and winter sports happened. But with the gift of hindsight, I would vote differently on that topic. I think getting everyone back on campus was the beginning of kind of getting back to normal.
Well, as I said, I have a consulting firm. My partners had never been in the business world and were very slow to accept concepts such as liability and a published fee for service. To convince them of the importance of adopting these for our firm, I brought in experts to discuss legal liabilities regarding the failure to implement a comprehensive contract for our protection, and a collections officer to review effective mechanisms for getting clients to pay their debts. After that session, together we were able to develop a viable contract for services by consensus. My team did not want to publish a fee for services, and I convinced them to do so by researching other firms' fees for similar services and discussing competitive market pricing. So, in conclusion, I did my homework and came prepared, presented viable options and good reasons to move us in the direction necessary to meet our organizational goals. This is the same approach and the skills that I would use when confronting school board issues.
Being part of the governance body like a school board requires diplomacy, humility, patience, curiosity, and critical thinking. But we don't expect every vote to be 9-0. I championed the proposal to initiate a pilot program for moving away from our high-emission diesel buses to zero-emission electric buses. Everybody had a lot of discussion with financial, operational, and programmatic implications of this program. But at the end of the day, it was a 5-4 vote. But in my thought, it was not only reducing the capital expenditure, I'm a fiscal conservative by doing so, but also de-risk the energy costs. This is where the board members' lived experiences are super critical. Stronger the lived experiences of the collective board members and the administrative team, better is our decision making. We cannot shy away from 5-4 decisions. these decisions help us grow even more so.
In my role at our Tri-State Science Fair, I've engaged with dominant figures from big corporations. And as director, I've had to push initiatives that weren't always popular. By confidently communicating the long-term vision and benefits to our community, I've been able to gain the support needed to move forward. When reflecting on the UCFSD board, I've observed that some decisions in recent years could have benefited from more community involvement. I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of our community members, and it's evident that many have felt unheard. As a school director, I commit to ensuring that every voice is considered and no one feels left behind when decisions are made. Open communication and community input will always be paramount in my decision-making process on the board.
As others have said, consensus building is the only way that a board member has influence. My board colleagues have unanimously voted me vice president and now president because I've earned their trust and their confidence, and I've built relationships. In my opinion, it's not a smart board director behavior to champion an unpopular position. Rather, the role is to influence, to question, to guide, and suggest ways to maximize our district's opportunities and our priorities. But that doesn't mean I always agree. For instance, last spring, the Finance Committee presented a tax increase that was higher than I was comfortable with, and I was able to share my concerns with administrators and board members, and I was able to guide a reduced tax rate outcome that better balanced the needs of our schools with that of our citizens. Thank you.
I'm also going to talk about the school buses, Dr. Akey. So a year ago, there was a proposal on the diesel school buses to replace them with electric. And I looked at it carefully. First, I thought it was a good idea, but when I looked into the dollars, it would cost the district $50,000 more each. So I didn't think we should do that. I spoke up at the board meeting. I did a lot of research. I wrote about it on my blog. I solicited feedback from the public and got some from several people. And then following the board debate, I voted no on the proposal, and it was a 5-4 vote that I was on the losing end of. But I think that voting no is an essential part of the job when you disagree. Since I've rejoined the board, I voted no 5% of the time. I actually went back and looked. And Dr. Brada said that consensus is important, and I think that's very true, but sometimes you gotta vote no. And Dr. Brada has not voted no in 4 years. I went back and checked. So I think it's our job to vote no, also try to get consensus.
With Jody Allen, you'll have 1 minute. Policy 603 on budget preparation states, the board recognizes its obligation to the taxpayers to approve only those expenses reasonably required to provide an educational program suitable to the needs and goals of this district and its students. What changes to the budget or current spending would you advocate for, if any? Specific questions from the community include the current deficit, balancing the budget, and not raising taxes. The impact of moving to full-day K. Increasing class sizes, particularly elementary, and affording solar panels and electric buses.
Thank you. So we already know the impact of adding full-day K. It will add $1.5 million to the annual school budget, and that's mainly due to faculty costs. So that has already been baked in into the 25-26 year when full-day K will start. So that decision has already been made. So knowing that, we need to factor that into our budgetary process. The reality is that nobody likes to pay more taxes, and I don't think anybody enjoys raising taxes. I don't think there's a single school board director who goes into a school board meeting saying, I can't wait to raise everyone's taxes, because that is always an unpopular position. However, if we are adding full-day K, if we are concerned about pandemic learning lag, and we want to continue to invest into our students, sometimes taxes will need to be increased. But that should always be done as minimally as possible. Another way we should look at it is increased communication between the school district as well as the local townships, because those are the other areas which raise all of our taxes. And we have increased communication, as I talked with Samantha Reiner, who's one of the supervisors in Chadsworth about in the spring. I offered that if I was elected, I would like to function as a liaison between the school board and the township in order so that there's better communication at both sides of what they're doing.
Did you know that in our school district, our cybersecurity insurance has recently increased by 40%? Now, it's still a relatively small percentage of our overall spend, but I think it's a symptom of a bigger problem. I think there's a paradigm that anything that is digital is an improvement over the non-digital version, and I do not accept that assertion. For example, my kids take many digital exams at school, and often they don't come home with a paper copy of their tests. As parents, we can see our child's grade, but if they're struggling, we don't have a paper copy to go over with them. Now, I'm not advocating that we completely do away with digital testing, but what I am saying is that digital education tools have an expense, and that there are drawbacks. A tool is not superior simply because it is digital. We should, of course, continue to invest in our students and in technology within our schools, but we need to scrutinize our investments, look for hidden costs, and we need to challenge the digital paradigm where appropriate. Technology in the classroom is a great thing, but it's also expensive, and sometimes a little dose of old school makes a lot of sense.
In my introduction, I didn't allude to my background. I'm actually a classically trained economist, and I've spent most of my career working in investments. So now that we're on the numbers and such question, you're right in my wheelhouse. Because of that training, however, I'm aware of the structural challenges that education has as an industry and the unique pressures that puts on our tax base in order to fund the education that our kids deserve. And it's through that lens that I'm going to be approaching the budget as a member of the school board. By my nature, I am a risk-averse person when it comes to public financing. I'm committed to fully funding the education that our kids deserve, but with the prudence and conservatism that we need as a community in the budget process.
I think we are extremely careful with the entire budget, which includes 80% of funds from local property taxes from our 7 local townships. We maintain a Moody's AA1 rating, and we do well on every financial independent audit. We came in a few million over the planned budget this year. This was due to higher than anticipated expenses for our employees' health care, which we can't control, and what I would term urgent pay increases in order to fill key district roles needed to operate our schools, and much higher than anticipated special education costs. We are legally and ethically bound to provide those. We use some money from the Healthcare Trust budgetary reserve and the unassigned fund balance, but we must continue to be careful and replenish this reserve and this balance. This was why we did a slow multi-year approach taken to implementing full-day kindergarten, for example. As a resident and fellow taxpayer, I recognize the burden of writing that check, and I feel responsibility to use the funds extremely carefully and well.
In my discussions with parents and residents these past few months, I've heard much concern about academics and spending. 60% of Chadsworth Township, where I live, most of my neighbors do not have children in this school system but pay the bulk of the taxes. I believe it is school board members' responsibility to honor the concerns of those that elected you to represent them. I believe that the #1 priority is the improvement of our academic rankings and getting our students back to their grade appropriate levels for reading and math, and that is where our funding should go until those levels have been restored. We also need to find areas to cut the budget and therein lower our taxes to be sensitive to constituents who are suffering financially. What has already been stated from Policy 603, the board recognizes its obligation to the taxpayers to approve only those expenses reasonably required. I believe the current school board has not fulfilled its obligation to follow this policy.
There's no question in my mind that setting the budget for a given fiscal year is the most important task facing the I consider myself a fiscally conservative person, and I believe we can have high-performing school district and live within our means. The responsibility to financially support our district falls on the entire community, and we must be mindful of the broad stakeholders that exist in our district. As a finance committee chair, I have undergone the rigorous process that our school district uses to set our budgets. Just to give you a few examples to show that our district's financial position continues to be super strong, 72% of our $100 million budget is salaries and benefits. That goes towards staff and teachers, which is what we need to manage our schools. Our budgets have not increased and have always remained under Act 1 for the past 5 years and has stayed even under the CPI index, the Consumer Price Index. Our debt service is 10% of budget, and that includes the long-range facilities. We have a very strong budget, and we have to be proud of that.
In line with Policy 603, every tax dollar spent should directly benefit our students. When discussing electric buses, as you've heard, it's important to note that despite their annual costs being similar to the diesel buses and the potential perks of leasing, the pilot buses come at a net higher lifetime cost than our clean diesel buses and are heavily subsidized for this round of pilot. Contracts like the one owned by Highland, who hasn't secured all their grants to keep their own costs down, require close examination because the current no-cost charging and maintenance will never be covered in perpetuity. The decision to adopt electric buses was narrowly passed with a 5-4 board vote, indicating some reservations on our board, which I do share. On solar, any implementation must clearly reduce our budget and not harm our environment, and if that's the case, then great. As for full-day kindergarten, I think we've covered that. It may strain our taxes and have a little bit of an increase, but my commitment is to maintain our academic excellence, our extracurricular programs like math, music, and science. We need to be able to balance the budget, but above all, ensure that we're directly enhancing the quality of education for our students, such as by reducing class sizes and offering learning support to them.
There is an inherent and necessary tension between providing appropriate public education while being fiscally responsible. 80% of our district's funding comes from property taxes. And since our municipalities do not regularly reassess property values, Chester County last reassessed 27 years ago, the only way to meet the rising costs of employment, goods, and services is through taxation. But the district has been prudent, raising taxes an average of 2.4% over the last 5 years. And I also support tax relief for our low and fixed income citizens. I support making reasonable expenditures on items that have the potential for big educational payoffs and/or future cost savings. Full-day kindergarten and some sustainability efforts are examples of these kinds of initiatives.
I've been a financial controller and managed budgets at work up to $500 million, and on the school board, something I pride myself on is carefully scrutinizing our spending. In the past 12 months, there have been 4 things that I thought were either unsound financially or not core to our educational mission. I already spoke about the buses. I also said no to spending $500,000 at Chad's Ford Elementary to connect to city water, rather than just drilling a $30,000 well or two. I also said no to investing $3 million in the solar field. It wasn't a firm proposal, but it was headed to be one. And I said no to spending taxpayer dollars on consultants to facilitate portrait of educator meetings. Something I would spend more on is a rewards and recognition program to bring more attention to the great classroom teaching we have. I proposed that in 2015, but others said no to that at that time. So I'm committed to spend our taxpayer dollars wisely and where they can best advance our core mission.
I respect the fiscal responsibility that comes with serving on the school board. My top priority is to oversee that our tax dollars ensure that all students receive the best education possible. I believe the current staffing standards don't account for the educational and behavioral impacts of COVID. Once again, I would advocate for smaller class sizes. This would allow our teachers to better be able to evaluate individual students and determine the best learning strategies, as well as identify any behavioral conditions. Having substituted in many of these larger classes and speaking to our teachers, I have seen firsthand just how diverse the needs of our students are. If we want our students to excel, we need to establish a solid foundation, which is set at the elementary school level. As a parent, taxpayer, and former student, I care about where our money is being spent. I don't want to waste our funds on programs that do not have a positive educational impact on our children. Thank you.
Given last year's $2.2 million budget deficit and the tax increases recently approved, all discretionary spending must be scrutinized and decisions made according to a hierarchy of needs over wants. Our board chose to spend $100,000 extra to lease electric buses because the district has a sustainability committee setting aggressive goals to reduce our carbon footprint and move UCFSD to 50% renewable energy in the next 7 years. We spend an extraordinary number of administrative man-hours on and even hire consultants for non-core initiatives like evaluating school start times and portrait of an educator. In the same meeting where the budget deficit was announced, the board voted to spend another $109,000 on another batting cage. Where I would spend our money is in high-quality evidence-based curriculum, like phonics-based core knowledge language arts for our elementary students. We must be responsible stewards of our taxpayer dollars.
Next question, you'll have 1 minute.
Brian Lamb.
Brian Lamb, thank you.
2 Brian's right here.
What should be the role of parents in our schools today? Specific questions from the community include the involvement of parents in student access to reading material, withholding information from parents and student confidentiality, upholding policy 906 to ensure fair due process for parental complaints and board transparency.
I believe that parents should not write the curriculum, but parents have every right to know the curriculum, especially for sensitive topics. We get a letter when our 5th graders begin sex ed. As a parent, I'd like to see a letter when my middle schoolers take sex ed as well, informing me of when it's occurring and what topics will be covered. As far as reading is concerned, my middle schoolers are often given the opportunity to select between several books for their literature studies. As a parent, I'd like to see a list of those books ahead of time so that I might discuss it with my kids. I often get asked about book banning, to which my answer is, of course, I'm not for banning books. In fact, I think our children should be reading more books. I've compiled a list for my kids of books that I think they ought to read before graduating high school. My list, if you're curious, includes To Kill a Mockingbird, The Grapes of Wrath, 1984, The Jungle, and Romeo and Juliet. If my kids came home with a list of 5 books that they had to select from, I would certainly direct them to one of those classics if they were to appear on the list. Going back to the question, I think it's safe to say that parents ought to be in the know, especially when a topic is sensitive or controversial.
Research has shown that there's a positive correlation between parental involvement and student outcomes, academics, behavioral, and social skills. And I can speak from my own experience that this school district provides ample opportunity for parents to be involved at the classroom level, at the curriculum level, at the district policy level. That's not to say that we've always gotten our way. Sometimes in that process, there are competing interests that have to be balanced against my family's interests. And I respect that. Public education is a public good that has to be available for all. The important thing, though, is that I've always felt heard. And I think that's what parents really want. They want to be heard in this process. And so if I'm elected and there's a way that we can improve on that, I'll be the first person to champion anything that we can do to improve parental involvement in our kids' education.
So whatever is leading to the impression that schools don't want parent involvement truly must not be in our elementary schools or in the booster meetings or helping move marching band equipment or in every single household in the evening when a parent is helping with homework or consoling an overwhelmed child. Schools certainly cannot do it alone and rely on engaged and interested parents. Our district is incredible in this regard. Parents also have a good bit of self-determination when it comes to the curriculum and their child. There are ways at the library, working with the administration, to opt out or restrict access to materials for your child if that is your wish. But it must be said that teachers and librarians must also have the space to do what they do best. They are trained professionals. I know what's best for my child, but I sure don't know what's best for yours, and I should have no say. And these curricular and subject area choices belong with the professionals who are hired to do the job. There are standards, guidelines, and policies that serve to guide them as well. I believe the system we have in place is working.
When assessing the roles of parents, teachers, and administrators, parents play the primary and most important role. They love and know their children better than anyone, provide guidance, protection from harm, provide all financial support in a home learning environment. Parents also impart their beliefs and values. Their opinions and guidance are utmost in any decision surrounding their child, from what they read to how they perform and behave in school. As such, parents must be supported through board and educator transparency, Policy 908, and be given opportunity to voice concerns through open dialogue, board meetings, and through the proper application of Policy 906. We all must remember that students are minors and responsibility of parents, and all matters concerning activities that might affect the welfare of the student must not be hidden from parents.
UCFSD is a public school district. It exists to serve the needs of the children and the families of our community. Parents play a critical role not only in the academic performance and the overall achievement of their children, but also in its efficient and effective operation of the district as a whole. But let me be clear, I do not support book bans of any kind. I believe parents have a right to limit their child's access to materials or resources that they do not believe is suitable for their child. I believe our administration and school leadership have the best interest of our students at heart, and based on their education and training are best equipped to determine the most appropriate materials and resources used in support of our curriculum. I believe the best learning happens when parents and school partner together. I believe that confidentiality should be maintained in strict accordance with the law and in keeping with the best interest of the student. Support from parents is critical for the school to be effective.
As you've heard, research has overwhelmingly shown that parent involvement is key to student success. In fact, our board's policy 908 acknowledges this partnership between educators and parents. It goes beyond helping with homework. It's a two-way street of understanding. When parents can influence the materials that their children see, it sparks conversations in the home. But this is more about access. It's about true transparency, and transparency is more than just putting data online. It must be clearly communicated so that our parents can genuinely comprehend what's happening. If a concern arises, like 50% of our 10th graders reporting symptoms of depression, the board should be vocal, seeking parent and community support of these kids. We see the magic of parent involvement in our elementary schools, but why does this lessen as our kids grow? Finally, upholding policies like 906 is a commitment to fairness. Parents aren't just stakeholders, they're foundation of our students' lives. Overlooking or silencing them is a misstep. Let's reignite a genuine partnership, collaboration, and shared ambition for the sake of every single student.
Parents are the most important teachers to their children, and our families add so much to our schools. They're the icing on the educational program, the icing on the cake of the educational program. Our PTOs are amazing. Our parent volunteers allow field trips, senior nights, robotics and other clubs, readathons, foreign exchange programs, all to happen. I believe we have such strong parent support because we are transparent with our community, providing full and complete access to the curriculum and materials when requested, by publicly presenting student performance data, whether it's positive or negative, and by having board policies that support and value parent involvement. Our families are critical partners in our educational program, and they are the reason that we have such amazing students.
Parents are responsible for the education of their children and play a vital role in our schools. And it's essential that we have a strong partnership between our schools and our families. One of the key ways our schools should support them is being clear and open about what our kids are learning and how they're being assessed. Canvas and Power School are good tools for parents to do this and see the results of recent assignments and what's happening in the classroom. So everything should be transparently posted in Canvas. It is almost all the time, but there have been some notable exceptions which need to be fixed. With respect to our libraries, we should have age-appropriate reading materials in them, and I support our current policy that allows parents to set age limits on materials for their children if they so choose. And I don't want to ban books either. Our schools must have a team attitude so that families feel comfortable reaching out to teachers and principals with questions. I think we do. And teachers and administrators need to remember that parents are in the best position to support their children and know their kids better than anyone else. So withholding information from parents is almost always the wrong choice.
First and foremost, parents need to be informed and involved. Parents are given opportunities through back-to-school nights, conferences, and volunteer roles that give us the chance to meet teachers, see facilities, and understand what school life looks like for our children. Busy schedules and activities can make conversations with our kids challenging, but all the more important. As parents, we need to partner with our teachers and administrators to help our children succeed. Through this partnership, we can keep the lines of communication open. If at any point a parent has concerns, there are multiple avenues that can be taken for resolution and are clearly referenced in Policy 906. I do believe in total board transparency. I support open communication. This does not mean being the loudest voice in the room. It means being the one who listens to others and considers all sides. For a successful future, we need to work to find the middle ground. Thank you.
For decades, education researchers have pointed to one key student success factor that transcends all others: parental involvement. Students with involved parents demonstrate better attendance, behavior, academic performance, and social skills. We must nurture positive relationships with families and welcome parental input. Transparency and clear communication builds trust. School is not Vegas. What happens at school shouldn't stay at school. Parents must be kept informed of any academic, behavioral, or mental health challenges their children are experiencing, and we must trust our amazing district parents to know what's best for their children. District councils, like the curriculum council I'm on, should be restructured to allow for parents to actually view curriculum choices and give real input as they used to do. And minutes and reports from all district steering committees should be issued. Parents matter, and the research is clear.
Parental involvement is critical to the success of our students and our schools. Our fantastic PTOs are a prime example of that. Last Friday, I actually helped set up the Chelsea Elementary School Book Fair, and I was back in Tegan's class on Tuesday morning to help them do the shopping experience. Per Policy 908, it explicitly states that parents are strong partners in their children's education. As a former bookstore manager, I think you can imagine my feelings of a book bin. Per Policy 906, board transparency is not only a legal obligation per sunshine laws, but it's also crucial for the legitimacy of the school board. Nobody, including board directors, is above the law, and Policy 906 is in place to ensure that due process is followed for all complaints. If anything, I would welcome significantly more parental involvement at the school board meetings, because quite honestly, it's usually me and Brian Schartzer, and it gets very lonely sitting in the audience.
For the community.
questions remaining, which is going to put us over by about 15 minutes. Is everyone good with that? Great. And if you have to go, we totally understand, and thank you for coming. Okay, Erin, you're up for the next question. You'll have 1 minute. How will you take into consideration the various viewpoints of our community around complex topics? Specific questions from the community include promoting civil discourse among students, representing the LGBTQ+ community, policies around bathroom use and biological males on female athletic teams, curriculum that includes gender identity discussion, and balancing enhanced security with limiting parent access to schools.
Okay, well, there is no shortage of complex topics these days, that's for sure. Some have clear legal guidance that we have to follow, some do not. In some cases, the laws are changing. Sometimes they're changing in some states, but not others. And sometimes we have a district policy, and some topics just aren't covered specifically. And this is where the value of a district-wide council can really be useful. I'll point specifically to the Equity Council. We have one. It was formed a few years ago, and it's a place where we bring some of these difficult topics. The council is made up of people of various viewpoints and sensibilities. It's not entirely an echo chamber of people that agree with each other. The idea is that topics are discussed, kicked, researched, articles are read, solutions are offered, and sometimes something is implemented. This prevents unilateral decision-making and increases transparency. One major outcome of the Equity Council was something called the Name Initiative, helping everybody pronounce students' names and teachers' names correctly. It was simple, elegant, put in PowerSchool, and there's a number of topics that would be difficult topics that could start in the council but end up with a policy change or at least a discussion.
The wants of the few should not outweigh or take precedence over the needs and comforts of the majority. I believe policy must not be made that adversely affects the entire student population as a reactionary response to the controversial topics that we face today. Rather, a more truly scientific approach must be used to address policies such as those on bathroom use and biological males on female athletic teams. The policies that the board has in place must be adhered to. There must be transparency and open dialogue meetings where parents can present their views on topics that affect their children and not be limited to 3 minutes to express their concerns. I've heard many times tonight that our #1 priority is to provide a superior education to our children. To accomplish that, subject content must be pure. The interweaving of controversial, unscientific concepts into our curriculum is not the duty of our schools or our teachers. These discussions involve the values and beliefs of parents and should be addressed in the home.
As Ms. Talbert said, there is no shortage of complex issues. There's no doubt that our students are coming of age at a challenging time. But let me give you an example of a complex topic: safe schools. Our board created a Safe Schools Committee at the start of the school year. The idea behind that committee was to develop emergency plans, safe facilities, support mental health, and communicate our plans with the community. Mere 2 weeks later, we were dealt with the escape of Danilo Cavalcanti. School administration was under spotlight, and Dr. Sandel had multiple 4 a.m. decisions to make to see if the school was going to be opened. When Dr. Sandel left messages on the phone, the entire community was relying on our school district for guidance. Our school became our first line of information, and our school administration bridged the gap with the police department who were focused on the task at hand. Our parents felt comfortable letting our students come to school even when Danilo was out there. That has to speak for our school district and how we are creating excellent, safe schools and a supportive environment for our students.
Well, this question is quite broad, as we've heard, so I'd be eager to dive deeper with anyone after the forum. In our community, diverse viewpoints merit both our attention and our committed understanding. Every student should feel safe and welcomed in our schools. Schools aren't just institutions. They're the places that our children spend hours and hours every day. Parents and community members should be able to tour these spaces that their tax dollars pay for, and unfortunately, many have been denied this opportunity at the high school. It's not just about transparency, it's about building trust. As we address contentious social topics and curriculum concerns, political neutrality is crucial. At the core, parents should feel empowered to instill their values into their kids, and our schools should remain neutral. We should strive to prioritize understanding and unity over division.
I lost my page, hold on, give me a second. The issues that our schools face are complex, and there are often valid yet conflicting perspectives. I deeply, at my core, believe that we have more in common than we have in conflict. So I've tried to listen more than I speak at board meetings, and I meet and respond to community members to hear their perspectives. We can't be afraid of disagreeing, or of information, or of ambiguity. Being open-minded and reflective is how we grow and improve, both as an individual and as a school district. Our schools are tasked with welcoming and educating all the students that walk through the door, and this is best accomplished when teachers and students feel safe and respected. Personally, I support our LGBTQ community members. I use people's preferred names and their pronouns, and I respect their bathroom choices.
When approaching social and moral issues, I start with the principle that every student should feel welcome at our schools. Hindu or Christian, straight or gay, white, black, or brown. One of the purposes of a public education is to teach us how to live with each other in a pluralistic society, to recognize that there are different points of view and that respect and civility undergird healthy human relationships and our economic life. This means protecting freedom of expression for our students. Students should not have to check their beliefs at the door or conform to a particular ideology to succeed at Unionville. It also means administrators need to embrace and support viewpoint diversity in the curriculum and cultivate a diverse workforce. For our educators, it means teaching, not preaching. For example, we can teach students about Buddhism in a class without encouraging them to become Buddhist. And not that everybody has done that, but when it comes to personal political beliefs, the best teachers teach students how to think, not what to think. One of our high school social studies teachers said that she considered it a success if students got to the end of the year and couldn't tell what her political views were. And I think that's exactly right.
As a board, we need to work collaboratively and partner with parents, students, teachers, and administration to understand the community needs as a whole. Our climate will continue to change as the world around us evolves. Listening to all sides, stepping away from personal views to find community solutions, and making sure no one voice is louder than another is essential. I understand that changes can be uncomfortable, but through open dialogue, we can grow together. We are living in a world that is considerably different from when I was a student at Unionville. That said, I do think the district has done an exceptional job with fostering an open and accepting environment for all students that I know we can continue to strive to do even better. When on the board, I will approach everything with an open mind and welcome input from all sides in order to make informed decisions. These complex issues raised by the community require thoughtful consideration, and I welcome the opportunity to work with my fellow board members to address them. Thank you.
When making decisions on complex or controversial topics, I will listen carefully to all viewpoints, and most importantly, I will grant those viewpoints the presumption of good faith. As vehemently and publicly as I disagreed with the prior board's pandemic policies, I have no doubt that they had good intentions. Whenever possible, a parent and community member survey should solicit input in a timely manner. Ultimately, I will follow my conscience, but also I'm willing to seek compromise. As a board member, I'm required to uphold the law, and there may be times when the law dictates policy regardless of my personal feelings. Policy and curriculum deliberations should be transparent. The Sunshine Act demands that. It is unacceptable that the Pandemic Steering Committee and some of our other committees' deliberations are not open to the community, for example. As a board member, I will publicly explain my reasoning before any vote that has generated a great deal of interest in the community.
Our diversity as a school district is our strength, and civil discourse is key. We can disagree without being disagreeable. I was concerned when I was at the high school 2 weeks ago for lunch and learn to give a presentation when one of the students mentioned to me that they were hearing anti-Semitic comments in the hallways in school, and asked what can the board do about that? And I said that is something that I would absolutely look into. I think it's our duty to protect our historically marginalized communities, such as our LGBTQ+ students and staff. And let's be honest, middle school and high school are hard enough socially. I was never what someone would call a cool kid in high school, but why make it harder on the kids? We need to make sure that we're always considering their safety and their security in all the decisions that we make.
First, it is the role of the school board to stay inside of its swim lane when it comes to complex issues. And we should only address such issues when they are directly within the purview of the school. We may all have different opinions about a certain complex topic, but it's not the school board's job to advance its own ideology any more than it is the school board's job to help NASA to put a man on Mars. Secondly, when dicey issues do come under the direct purview of the school, I think that we can solve a lot of these issues by sticking to the uniting principle of equal application of the law and of our school's rules to all parties, regardless of their race, religion, sexual orientation, or politics. Finally, I think that specifics are important, and anytime a complex topic arises, it's important to discuss openly and to understand nuance. Whatever complex topic is important to you specifically as a voter, I encourage you to ask candidates about your concerns with very specific language and to insist on an unambiguous response.
Of all the topics that we've been presented with tonight, I think this particular question was the one that simply couldn't fit into the 1 minute limit of the debate. But I encourage anybody who wants to engage on any of the particular issues to reach out to me after the meeting. I do want to, however, share a couple of personal philosophies that I think are important for you to know about me as a candidate. First, the long arc of history bends toward equality and inclusion. Sometimes you have to take a stand. Sometimes you have to decide, you stand with Governor Wallace in the schoolhouse door, or you stand with the protesters in the street. I'm here to tell you, I stand with the protesters in the street. I also want you to know that I embrace pluralism, which was discussed earlier. The philosophy that people of different backgrounds and beliefs can coexist and participate equally is at the core of who I am. I'll support that value and bring that point of view to the school board.
So we'll conclude with 1 minute of candidates' closing remarks, and we'll start with Isabel Romine.
In our pursuit of an excellent education for our children, diversity of thought on our board is paramount. My mission goes beyond education. It's about giving our community a voice. I champion collaboration and will ensure every child feels safe and every tax dollar used efficiently. Sadly, this campaign has seen a distortion of my character by my opponent and her backers, so let me correct these distasteful lies here and now. To be clear, I am not endorsed by nor a member of any political advocacy groups, and I do not have an agenda. I have the best in heart for our children and for our schools. I declined endorsements from outside entities, and when social media posts came to my attention, I immediately asked for them to be retracted. My publicly available financial filings show that my campaign is rooted solely in the support of this community because my allegiance is solely to our community. Meanwhile, my opponent's financial filings show that she has received support from statewide PACs with a questionable past. So I ask, which one of us will remain impartial? I am the one who stands here committed to our local voices and interests, so if you seek honesty, transparency, and genuine commitment to our children and our community's educational success, then I am your candidate. Please vote for me.
Thank you to all the community members who came out tonight and shared their questions. And thank you to the middle school and the high school PTO for organizing this event. But I also want to especially shout out to all the candidates who are willing to volunteer their time to your community. And I find that inspiring. It's been an honor to serve on your school board. I've been able to meet some sensational students and families, and I get to work alongside dedicated colleagues, teachers, and administrators every day. Certainly no one's perfect, and there is always room for continuous improvement. But I never want to forget how very blessed we are to live in this community. I would love to continue my board service, so I humbly ask for your vote of re-election on November 7th.
There are few responsibilities in our community that are more important than ensuring our children get a great education. And as voters, you need to decide who can best lead our district into the future. I know how to use our board's authority and oversight to make our schools better. I have expertise our district needs in strategy, finance, and technology. I have a track record of leading this district and delivering meaningful results for our residents, including reducing interest on our debt, making smart investments in technology, and upgrading our building security. I do challenge our administration, and I have high expectations for how our school district is run. And I say no when needed, and I need to correct myself before. Dr. Brado told me she did vote no one time. That she remembers. I am transparent in my views, and I make myself accountable to the public through my website and through my comments at board meetings. Finally, I'm a leader who will work to unite our community. I'll work hard to improve trust in the board, keep politics out of our schools, and focus on what matters most, the academic growth of our students.
At the end of the day, I am a parent and community member just like you. I have 2 young girls in the district, and my father proudly served on the UCFSD board for 3 terms. My father became involved because he wanted to help make decisions that impacted my future, and now I hope to do the same. Simply put, I want to make a difference and give back to a community that I love. I am invested in this district and will continue to be regardless of the outcome of this election. I promise to always listen to all voices and represent my community. I will strive to empower each student to succeed in life and contribute to our ever-changing society. I thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself, and I hope that you will consider voting for me in November. Thank you. Thank you again to Patton and to the Unionville High School PTOs who put this event together. I'm happy to answer any questions after the event. Thank you so much again for coming.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and the PTO for hosting this forum. If you want a school board that better reflects the diversity of thought in this district, vote for me. If you want someone who has a demonstrated record of fighting for your children even when it wasn't popular to do so, then vote for me. If you want someone who values the role of families and welcomes parents and guardians as partners in their child's education, vote for me. If you want someone who believes in transparency and honest, frank, and civil discussion, then vote for me. If you want someone who will prioritize your tax dollars first and foremost to the children's education and providing the resources the children need to thrive, then vote for me. I'm Lori Peters, and I'm running to represent Region B. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming out tonight and for not spending the entirety of the forum on your phones checking the Phil scores. As I said earlier, my career has been about service, which is why during the pandemic, when there was a shortage of poll workers, I began working as a minority inspector, and then I've spent the last 6 elections as a judge of elections in Fallcroft. I also am a board director and the treasurer of the Chatsworth Township Residents Association. Quick plug, we have a roadside cleanup next Saturday. If you want to walk along the roads and pick up some trash with me, please come on. Like I said, if I'm elected, I can't promise that you will always agree with me or my votes. But I can promise that I will approach the role thoughtfully and seriously and make decisions that I feel are in the best interests of our students and our schools. And whether or not I am elected, I will continue to be an involved parent because that's who I am.
I'd like to close by summarizing what a vote for me, Brian Lamb, represents. A vote for me is a no vote to expensive outside consultants in the midst of a budget deficit, and a yes vote to fiscal responsibility for our taxpayers. A vote for me is a no vote to electric school buses, and a yes vote to investing in our students and teachers. A vote for me is a no vote to expensive political stunts like changing the mascot during a pandemic, and a yes vote to addressing the learning loss that has occurred under the watch of our current school board. Anyone who believes that we can simultaneously advance progressive political priorities, invest in our students, pay our teachers well, not raise taxes, and balance the budget, is likely to lead us right back to where we are today, running at a budget deficit with rising taxes and declining academics. A vote for me is a vote for change. It's a vote for putting our kids first. A school board that prioritizes everything prioritizes nothing. If you believe in putting academics ahead of politics, then I urge you to support me on November 7th. Thank you for your time, and I wish all you and all your families the best. Thanks.
I'm going to come full circle with my introduction. We are blessed with great schools in this community. But that is not an accident, and it does not just happen. It's the product of sustained investment in great teachers, super faculty, and staff. They have to be led by outstanding administrators and funded by a willing taxpayer base. All of that has to be overseen by capable people who are willing to sign up to do the job. The word that comes to my mind is stewardship. I will believe that I will be a great steward for our school district and this community. I'm asking the voters of Region C to choose me to handle that job on November 7th. Thank you.
I'll be brief and get you out of here in the evening. I just want to thank you all for your rapt attention tonight. This was a good event. This is new for the PTO. I think they did a really kind of classic, great job with it. Do you guys agree? This was quite so thank you for all the hard work that went into it and making it a positive event. This night could have gone differently, and I think it was a very positive event. I do hope that you vote for me if you live in Pennsbury or Chatsworth Township. I think I gave a lot of reasons why tonight, so I won't rehash them all. And the main thing I wanted to say, and Dr. Brad already did this, was thank you to every person up here for being willing to step on the stage and stand in the light and put your name in people's yards and you know, have uncomfortable moments. It's a volunteer job, but we need 9 people to step up and do it. And so thank you for everyone just for being willing. I think choice is good for voters, and every seat this year has someone running against it, and that's a win for our district.
I'd like to thank the PTOs of Unionville High School and Patton Middle School for this wonderful opportunity to share my vision for our school district moving forward. As a member of the school board, I would pledge the following to parents, residents, and students of Unionville Chatsworth. I would ensure responsible and transparent fiscal school funding, finding areas to cut the budget and deliver relief to residents who are financially suffering. I would prioritize academic excellence as a central focus for curriculum development. And I would work cooperatively and diligently to close the learning gap that has emerged in recent UCF achievement reports. be an advocate for parents and residents, bring their concerns to the board for deliberation. Again, the school board member's responsibility is to honor the concerns of those that elect you to represent them. I'm Madeline Warner, I represent Region C, and I humbly ask you for your vote on November 7th.
Well, I get to start and now I get to end it too. I just want to say thank you to all of you who came here today, and informed community always is the best community. So thank you for the time that you're spending with us today. So we want to thank the PTOs for organizing this, and I want to thank each and every one of you here on this table today. As I started my opening statement, I'm here, my reason to be here is very simple. I just want to give back to the district and the community that I feel has given so much to me and my family. I've talked a lot about my experiences, I have plenty of them. A lot of those things have led to the 4 years of experience at the board, working and creating strong relationships with fellow board members, administrators. And I just want to say thank you to the Unionville Chatsworth Education Association and Pennsylvania Education Association for supporting me. I am honored. And for those of you living in Region A, feel free to come to me and talk to me after this. And I just want to say thank you so much for this event.
To all of the candidates for your time tonight and for running. This is wonderful. We're so glad that you are all here. The candidates did provide email addresses for follow-up, and they're going to stay for half an hour spread out up front, and you can address your questions to them. Thank you.